I was raised in a Christian home with two parents that were also raised in a Christian home. So church was valued in our home from the start. And I came to know Christ probably at age 12 and realized that it mattered to me and it mattered what my future looked like. So I committed my life to Him at that point in time. And I went to high school and college, and there was probably little fruit in my life from the standpoint of really walking with Christ. But He certainly wasn't silent in my life. He was just quiet. Church was definitely relational. It was part of what we did as a family, but it did not feel like an obligation. It felt more like, it felt very social. I had a lot of friends within the church. I was part of a youth group, part of like choirs even growing up. So it definitely was a part of what we did as a family, but it was also brought a lot of joy. It did not feel like an obligation. Then after I got out of college and I met my husband, I recommitted my life to Christ. And that's when we found a church, and we were committed in finding a place where we could serve and a place where we would grow in our faith and as a couple from that standpoint as well. I remember the first time that I had sort of a desire to invite somebody to church. My kids had just started school, elementary school, my oldest, and I had met a woman that had a daughter who was similar in age to my daughter. And I remember having conversations with her about her husband traveling a lot, about how she was overwhelmed at home, how she couldn't find balance. And I remember at that point thinking that this would be the perfect person to invite to church. This would be somebody that I could come alongside of and really walk this walk of husbands traveling, of crazy schedules, of doing things a lot on your own. And I remember at first I was kind of nervous in inviting her. But once I did it, she was so receptive to coming, and I think that was probably because we had built a relationship prior to that. Our daughters had become girlfriends. We had spent time together, and it just came naturally out of our relationship. And she came. Her daughters became very involved in our church, and even more so than the mom did. And they were encouraging the parents to come. At that point in time, the dad didn't really come. But as they became more involved, and as I got to know the mom even better, she came more involved. And we joined a Bible study together. And then eventually the father came, and this entire family came to know Christ. Makes me want to cry. I think when I feel prompted to have a conversation with somebody, there's a lot of thoughts that go through my mind at that moment, and sometimes it's, is this the right time? Or have I known this person long enough? Or do they know me well enough? Or what do they really think about me? So all those thoughts oftentimes go through my head, and they make me hesitate at times, especially with people that I have absolutely no idea where they are with their faith. But I've learned over the years that when I miss those opportunities, and I certainly have from time to time gotten cold feet and turned the conversation into something else, that I have regret about that, because I felt like I had an opportunity at that time. And not that God's not going to give me another opportunity, but there was an open door and I didn't walk through it. And so I've kind of learned over the years that when those opportunities do come up, I try to seize them. You know, I had a really weird situation happen to me a couple of years ago when I was getting my hair done. And I was sitting in a chair, and I was actually getting highlights, so I was sitting there for a long time. And my hairdresser asked me, so tell me your story, tell me about your faith. And I was sitting in a table with like 4 other women that were in earshot completely of what we were talking about. And at that moment, I kind of panicked because I thought, oh my gosh, I've got all these ears around me that are hearing what I'm about to say, but he's point blank asking me, so I need to give him an answer. And so at that moment, I shared the gospel with him from beginning to end. And I was waiting for his response, and at the end he just said, okay, that's cool. And that was the end of the conversation. But it was one of those moments where I didn't really want to. In fact, I even remember in my head going, man, Lord, really, right now? This is where you want me to share it and have this conversation? One of the things that I hope and actually pray about is what it would look like if we as believers really came alongside of our friends and told them where our hope comes from, why our faith makes a difference in our life. Why do we go to church? Why is Jesus central to our life? If we did that, our communities could be changed dramatically. Families could be changed. Schools could be changed. And ultimately, the people in our lives can know the love of God and get plugged into a church community.